morning. This video is just going to go over your final create your own case study project for Anatomy and Physiology 2. If you had me for Anatomy and Physiology 1, then you kind of know how this works. There's just a couple differences between the one that you did for AP1 and the one that you're going to do for AP2. But ultimately, you're creating your own case study. Throughout the semester, we've gone through different case studies, one for each unit. So you have a general idea of what those means. You're creating some kind of medical scenario. You can choose a medical scenario that involves any of the systems that were discussed this semester. So for AP2, that includes cardiovascular system, digestion, respiratory system, urinary system, and reproductive systems. So any disorder that falls into one of those categories, and endocrine system as well. You need to have 20 questions about your scenario that a student could then answer. You need to include an answer key to those 20 questions. You need to include citations. And just like with AP1, I'm not overly concerned about your proper citation style. You're welcome to use MLA or APA. You're welcome just to list the name of the website and then include the link to that website. I'm not going to get bogged down in the proper citation method, but you do need to include a list of the sources that you used. Now, just like with AP1, there are 3 specific questions that need to be included in your 20 questions. The first one needs to relate to some kind of diagram or table or visual that a student needs to analyze. So it can be, labeling structures. It could be a table with test results that a student needs to analyze. Are the results normal, high, low, that kind of thing. But you need to include some kind of visual that a student needs to be able to analyze. So that's one question that's required. The second question that's required is that you need to involve the cellular or tissue level of organization in one of your questions. That might be like, name a cell that's found in this, or what cell is involved in this particular disorder, or what are the tissues that make up this particular organ that's involved, however you want to do it. The third question involves linking your disease, which is going to cover one of the systems, linking that disorder to another system in the body. So oftentimes, let's say we have a heart issue, that's going to affect another organ or another system of the body. So making a connection about how this disorder actually affects more than one system, the system that you're focusing on, and then how it would affect or play a role in another system as well. The grading rubric is here, so again, you can use that to kind of help you along. You should know what your grade is as you turn in this rubric. Again, those of you who've had me in AP1, very similar. Oh, last thing, you do need to, just like with AP1, you need to link each question to the course criteria. So the course criteria are listed in your learning management system. So for some of you, that course criteria ends up looking something like this in a table format. If you're on Blackboard, for those of you who use Blackboard, and for those of you who use D2L, then those criteria are listed in each unit right up on top. Pull it up quickly. So they're all listed right in here. So next to each question, so for instance, let's say you're doing one that involves the muscular disorder, and you have a question. For each question, you need to go in and figure out which one of these criteria is it addressing, and then you need to include that criteria in parentheses next to each question. These criteria are what the state wants you to know and understand. So by doing this assignment, you can kind of see how what you've learned and what you're ultimately asking another student to know, how they fall into what our goals were for you in terms of learning. You might use one criteria more than one time. You might have 4 questions that cover criteria 9.73, and that's totally fine. You will not use all of the criteria for your project. And you might have a question that actually addresses more than one, and so you would include all of them that would be addressed. So making sure that you list those criteria next to each one of your questions. If you have any questions about this assignment, please don't hesitate to ask. I will meet with you via Zoom or in person to go over any questions that you might have. All of your colleges have a writing lab, So, and it's part of your tuition. I would encourage you to use that writing lab. If you are not very confident in your writing skills, you can submit your assignment and they will give you feedback on, things that maybe needs to be checked or spelling errors or anything like that. Have a great day.